So once upon a time, I bought a pre-built PC. I know. Oh my gosh. I don't think I'm going to forgive myself too easily for this, but the 4090 was nowhere to be found. And, as someone who does YouTube, who was doing game development at the time, I wanted a PC that would be able to handle a lot of the workload, and my business needed it. So I decided I was going to get this pre-built. But while I was at it, I put a notification request to notify me if a 4090 came into the market, into stock. Well, as I was actually using this device, I found that it was actually pretty good, but I already had top of the line AM4, the 5950X, running with, I think, an RTX 4080 at the time too. And, wanting to get this 4090 device to also separate some of the tasks was actually quite cool. However, once the 4090 came into stock, I returned that big pre-built expensive device, paid a restock fee, and got a 4090 and called it good. That's because the value proposition was not even worth it. And these were not even personal funds, these were business expenses. If I actually go ahead and juxtapose this with this story that we're seeing here from Push Square, I think it makes a little bit more sense. In fact, I think it even makes more sense that people who paid for this with personal funds are having to actually go through this. Let me tell you what's going on the internet. You see, the talk of the PS5 Pro is good enough for PlayStation. Whether there's positive or negative reviews or positive or negative outlook, it doesn't matter. PS5 Pro is going to basically crowd the headlines of every YouTube video and every article out there, that even to the point that Push Square will be in a position where they feel the need, and Push Square is a pro PlayStation website, to write an article like this. And honestly, this is not surprising because I've also seen some of you in the comments say that, somebody wrote a comment in one of my videos. I remember it. They said, I have a friend that works at Best Buy, and they told me that people are just returning this PS5 Pro because it doesn't have a disc. The value proposition of this console is way more than just upscaling and all of the above. There are just some needs that a PlayStation 5 owner is used to. And I'm a PlayStation 5 owner. I drove to another state to buy my PS5. I was able to take my PlayStation 4 discs and put them in, continue my library, but those discs were also very important. So not seeing it on a PS5 Pro and them asking $700 and then I have to go find a disc to buy, that already blows everything out of the way because it doesn't meet that need. The value proposition is just not there. So let's go ahead and read this article written by Sammy Barker, which titles, Disgruntled PS5 Owners Campaign to Disable Support After Slew of Shoddy Patches. So now they're not seeing the patches for this. They're not seeing developers move fast enough to basically get the games to leverage the new hardware uplift that's there. These games are already old. The developers are already done with most of these games and are trying to move on to other projects. The competition is so high, for them to take away resources to go back and patch an old game that you've already played, to them may not be worth, the squeeze in this instance. So PS5 Pro is generally posting really positive results for games like Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Hogwarts Legacy, but as with all things in life, there are inconsistencies. It's worth underlining that this is down to individual developers to get the most out of Sony's hardware. Not all of them are doing a good job. We've reported likes of Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Silent Hill 2, two titles which are pretty terribly enhanced on Pro. Others showing suboptimal results, including Dragon Age the Veilguard, Dragon's Dogma 2, and Alan Wake 2. Dragon Age the Veilguard, I thought that game was actually, well optimized from the gameplay I've seen. I mean, I don't know, but I thought people said that Dragon's Dogma 2 had done better. I've been seeing y'all in the comment section saying that. Why is Sammy Barker writing this? Okay, maybe I get to go see by myself. And now some early adopters are campaigning for the ability to play games in their original guise. Marvel's Spider-Man 2 allows you to do this. For example, you can toggle between the standard PS5 settings or the PS5 Pro options if you want to. PSSR is amazing, but it's not a magic bullet that fixes all image quality problems that some games have if you just replace the previous upscaling solution with this new one fan noted on Reddit. Well, this is welcome to PC. For those of you that are PlayStation 5 gamers, I welcome you to the struggles that we have. You see, we've all now started using hardware from one of the more similar manufacturers out there, AMD. I like AMD. I like their CPUs. I'm so much of a fan of the way they came out and slapped Intel all over the place after Intel was basically taking a knife to our wallets. And so I'll buy AMD CPUs without thinking. I don't even remember Intel exists. anymore. The last Intel CPU that I bought was the i7-7700K. And since then, I've probably bought almost half, if not more than half a dozen more CPUs that are in my own builds or family friends builds or, the kids builds. Don't touch Intel anymore. But still, I can tell you that from a graphics processing and in terms of games, there are drawbacks. NVIDIA has its drawbacks as well. So you are now facing some of the drawbacks because now this is, upscaling and its solution, has its own limitations as well. It still needs to be properly implemented and tested. Maybe Sony will mandate that all PS5 Pro patches need to still include the modes of the standard PS5 version. This is where the challenge is. Welcome to the Series S's problems too. PlayStation. You see, when you have multiple hardware SKUs, you will face challenges. They will come in different shapes and sizes. That's what PC faces because it has multiple SKUs. That's what Xbox faced with the Series X and S because it had multiple SKUs. There were challenges here and there. And that's exactly what the PS5 Pro is going to also face. Simple enough. So now, I know this is one Reddit user, but I also saw just a short article that somebody was saying on Reset Era. I think there was an article written that on the Reset Era forums, a developer came under their username and said what's going on is there are different, and this is hearsay, I'm not going to confirm this, there are different versions of PSSR that is available to developers, and they're still patching it inside of, in the back end in terms of how it works. And as they're patching it, developers are having to iterate this stuff. So again, welcome to the world of upscaling. What DLSS achieved over 4 years, PSSR thinks it's going to just achieve it in such a short period of time. The challenge is that every single video game is going to have its own challenge. It's going to have its own problems. And so this is what a lot of, developers are going to be seeing. And again, like I said, because these are old games, it's going to be hard for you to basically expect developers to go back and start patching you an old game that they've already resolved for the most part to work for the PlayStation 5, balance it, do a lot of hard work. And then to go back and try to do that work again for hardware that basically doesn't have, significant uplift is just weird. And I think it goes back to what that Warner Brothers developer said. And I'm not going to say their name. I don't want anybody to go bother them. They said, brethren, this is how they put that comment. They said, games that have faced challenges with CPU limitations or GPU limitations are not going to suddenly just have them disappear with minor uplifts, something along the lines of that. I modified it just so that you don't go and quote my words and then find out who this person is. And I think it's very interesting. And this is what people were trying to say when the conversation started. I'm going to keep reading. That same person I added wanted to continue playing Star Wars Outlaws in the 40 FPS mode until I found out that Ubisoft removed all previous modes of the PS5 Pro patch. This is also a developer challenge too. I was quite annoyed when I discovered that because what's happening here is now this is not just only like a PSSR change. From a development perspective, this is also going to be a UI change. So now not only are you going to have to, basically go through like a, engineering pipeline, you got to go through your UI UX designers to basically figure out a way to implement a change where it actually shows that, we've now added this implementation there, which would then require some programmers to go in and ensure that, there's a way for all the toggles to work. UI programming is not easy. I've seen it done in real time. I've seen, for one of our projects that we were doing, one of our programmers basically, took together like a framework that already was built, in a certain perspective and then kind of adapted it to some of the things we wanted. And it took them a lot of time to be able to get it to where it needed to be. Right. And then when you're doing it for a big AAA game with all the red tape and everything, that's wild to expect that that's something that, a lot of these developers are going to be willing to do. So PlayStation 5 has basically created, as much as it came in to actually resolve a problem, it's created another problem that PC had been seeing for a long time. Remember, Jedi Survivor, one of the biggest things that they said when they were having problems with their CPU version, actually in their first delay of the game, yes, when Jedi Survivor was first delayed, they said that their biggest problem was being able to go ahead and actually balance their game for high core, multi-thread and multi-core CPUs. That was the biggest thing that they had problems with. And so now that we're seeing just this little tweak in terms of the hardware, I think it's more of a matter of time. I don't think this is really a big problem, but it's just, do they have the time? They're working on how many more Star Wars games? So I don't know if they're going to be too happy to come back on the Jedi side anyway. Star Wars Jedi that was mentioned here, but this is Star Wars Outlaws. I think Ubisoft will be able to resolve it and get the game going. They're very good at patching. See, Yell at Ubisoft all you want. They be patching a lot. I wish they were good at making the games as good as they were patching, but hey, gaming industry is so weird these days. I like some Ubisoft studios out there. Don't get me wrong. I like Massive, in a sense, because of the Division. In a sense, it's a love-hate relationship, but it is what it is. And then they said, I was quite annoyed when I discovered that. And then they said, this creates an interesting headache for Sony. The console experience is built on the idea that things work out of the box. Welcome to world of PC. Once PlayStation decided that they were going to step into the world of PC, once Xbox also did and made the very critical error to brag about, high-end hardware, that was the end. Because now everybody, is now expecting something that comes with its own technical challenges that was only relegated to the PC platform. Back then. Think about the first PS6 games. Think about who's going to develop those games. They're going to have to develop that game to take advantage of the PlayStation 6's, hardware. Then they're going to develop it to take care of the PlayStation, the Xbox Series, whatever hardware. Then they now have to take care of all the backward compatible stuff. It's going to be you guys think you guys think we're having issues now? You just wait till more console hardware starts getting into the mix, because we're not easily going to abandon this console hardware. Why would anybody do that? Why would PlayStation leave this console hardware where it's already giving its own challenges here and there? It's about to be very interesting. So would adding more options create confusion? We'd argue that PS5 is designed for enthusiasts first and foremost, so it wouldn't hurt to give them more flexibility. Man, see, no offense though. If you want to be an enthusiast for hardware on this level, you probably need to go on AliExpress and start tinkering with hardware. That's what the enthusiasts would do in this case, because all you're doing, this is literally pre-built child's play. If you talk about enthusiasts, no, they're trying to make it seem like it's an enthusiast grade level hardware, but it's not. It's just a headache for developers, I think. I mean, maybe some developers appreciate it, but I just feel like it does provide an extra layer of complexity. Obviously, we're seeing it. Ultimately, we think the real problem here is developers deploying undercooked patches. Bro, what are they supposed to do? Go be remaking the game that they already made before for your little upgrade? Again, maybe that's what they're supposed to. Some studios have taken advantage of it. Some studios have quickly done one small thing and put out a big picture and say, hey, we've done it, like Baldur's Gate 3. They did a very brilliant one. I was going to make a video about it, but I said, no game should look worse on the PS5 Pro, but some titles are releasing in that state. Well, we understand there's a little financial incentive for companies to go back to their older games and update them, but if they're actively breaking their software, maybe it'd be better to do nothing at all. Hey! Surely they want their titles to be representing the best quality possible. These are probably just early teething troubles for PS5 Pro. The hardware is new and developers are still getting to grip with the PSSR. Nevertheless, it's not a great look for $700 hardware. Is making popular titles look worse than it is. Well, welcome to the PC gaming platform, PlayStation 5 Pro owners. Developers are probably going and saying, why in the world do we have another SKU on top of all the SKUs that we had? At least Xbox brought out the Series S on the very first day, so everybody got ahead of it, and that way, people knew, okay, this is what we were expecting, and this hardware is already here long enough for us to be able to develop accordingly with it. But again, I have to ask the developers, did you guys not get your SKUs for the PS5 Pro early enough? But how early could it have been? You know what I mean? Think about it, guys. PSSR seems like it's really, really, in its infancy stage. Anyways, we'll get there. Y'all will get there. It will be a gaming PC, though, when you get there. That's pretty much what I'm seeing. So thanks for watching the video. Appreciate you guys' time and audience, and hopefully we'll talk pretty soon in another one. Peace out.